Tokusatsu is no stranger to its toy culture, and for many new to the medium, it can be pretty off-putting. It's really in your face. I've been seeing talk about Gotcha being more toy-centric than your other normal Toku shows. It's a little funny as this kind of goes on in all three of the big Toku. Kamen Rider and Sentai are the worst in my eyes from their bizarre way of introducing new toys to the show. We see a guy in a cool suit but with this giant Hasbro electronic plastic sword on his back. It's the embodiment of true goofiness. It has made it a lot harder for me personally to get into Tokusatsu, and has kinda led to a burnout from me watching Toku shows as it makes them feel like they're toy ads more so than shows themselves. My favorite Kamen Rider, Forze, plays into this very well, with its collect them all mentality for the Switches. Though Gotcha having a literal card game mechanic is very on its nose with the way of showing off this idea of selling toys. And some of these toys are really expensive. I found this belt for Gotcha for $95. I'm sure there's a cheaper one or a more expensive one, but it's a little ridiculous in my eyes. While all media has a large consumerism mentality when it comes to the merchandise associated with them, Star Wars, for example, was built on its merch sales, but they feel significantly less in your face than all these weapons and belts. Star Wars doesn't feel like introducing characters to sell action figures. It feels like George Lucas had a funny idea for a monster and said, add it. And then they did. And then he'll come up with like a weird backstory, and then they'll sell a toy of it that I'll own like 6 copies of. Like my monster boy, Sleaze Bagano.
You wanna buy some death sticks?
I love you, Sleaze Bagano. I think of you every night. I've mainly focused on Kamen Rider in this video because it's my main Toku franchise I'm the most familiar with. As much as I love King Oger, the weapons are so toyish and unpractical in any way. It looks like they're meant to fit the electronic noises that make the funny sounds that I adore. But it also makes it look so stupid when they're fighting with them, besides the weird backgrounds. This toy-centric aspect has taken me out of the space of Toku and made me feel more alien to the space, as I don't really like seeing all these ads for these plastic toys. I want to watch a show of a man making friends with everyone to take away their despair. I want to see a guy do the worm while he's being shot at. I want to see a live-action knockoff of Cardcaptor Sakura. This is a show that's trying to sell toys after all. It's not that you can't have both, it's just the show makes it so harder for me to get into them and feel more invested when it feels like I'm just trying to be sold toys at every moment of every episode. It's fun and can be serious at times, though it makes it significantly harder to take the serious moment when you see a giant Bandai logo on the toy store that says, "Buy me now." I don't think I'll ever like the toys in Kamen Rider, and I understand that that's how the show makes money. I wish it was just less in your face about it, be a little bit more subtle. Gundam has its gunpla, and you can tell when a mech is introduced just to sell more toys. But even if that is the episode plot, it does not take me. It feels very fitting for this giant robot to fit within this world so they can add to the next plot point. For Toku, it's a pink plastic sword, man. As for the need of budget and income drives producers at these studios to make more and more money, and the artistic craft is hurt by the need to sell. In a strange sense, I'm reminded of some of the best made films. War and Peace, a movie series made in Soviet Russia that did not need to make money as it was funded by the state, though it did make all of its money back, and then some by ticket sales. Please note, this is not my solution to funding film and TV shows by the state just funding everything. That's strange. This masterpiece was one of the most beautiful and heart-wrenching films about the Napoleonic Wars, and watching the horrors of war in one of the most epic war movies ever, with some incredible actions of background performers that I have ever seen to this day. Good lord, look at the amount of men and horses just marching on the field. This is so fucking cool. This is probably one of the most epic war movie ever made, and definitely the best villain ever of Napoleon, who is just so Dio-esque in how inhumanly evil he is at every turn and his lack of fear. He says so few words in this movie, and yet he has such a presence everywhere he goes. It's an incredible performance. Now, why would I bring up the greatest movie ever made? Well, that's because there's no ads to buy toys of Pierre. Consumerism is the death of creativity, people. Creators are limited in what they can do when they are glorified marketers. I love Tokusatsu, don't get me wrong, but if you like the toys, keep enjoying them. They're just not for me, as some people just don't like Gunpla. I get it. You don't want to build mech toys. I get it. It would be like for me building a car. I don't know anything about cars. I don't care about building car model kits. I entertained myself once about the idea of getting a belt. I have a lot of merch in my home. Posters, figures, some Gunpla. But the idea of having a belt does not appeal to me, and I've been wondering why for these past few months, as my peers are really into the toys aspect of the franchise, and I thought I was just weird for not liking them. I realized I think the belts are ugly. They're garish. They're disgusting. They're giant plastic molds, and I just do not like them. They make funny sounds, yes, but when I think of the cool parts of Kamen Rider, it's not the goddamn belt, it's the suit and helmet. If you're telling me I could buy a helmet version of Forza, and I'm sure I can somewhere, knowing the merchandise and consumerism of these companies, I would totally have the mask of Forza or Gotchard or OG, just one of them. Honestly, any of them. They're so fucking cool. The suit designs are wonderful. I love them. I look forward to them. They excite me. But not the belts. The belts I never got. I don't get the belts at all for Kamen Rider. It does not make sense to me. It's the least cool aspect of it. I get that's how he transforms, but it could be a wristband and I would care just as little. I watch Toku for the stories, the goofy characters, the fun elements, the weird aspects that make Tokusatsu Tokusatsu. And I also love it when Tokusatsu can become more serious and tell a really heart-wrenching story, as it can do and does constantly. It's a really fun way that they are able to tell these more interesting stories with these extremely goofy elements so associated with Toku. It's why I like the medium overall. But the toy ads are just killing me, man. It feels like it's the price of entry to get into Tokusatsu, that you have to be okay with being spammed with ads every 5 minutes at every moment, that these are the toys you have to buy. Well, of course, you don't have to buy them. I don't buy any of them. I probably won't. And I guess I'm okay with that more so these days. To my haters, if you like the toys, keep enjoying them. I literally don't care what you do with your money. If you want to spend all your money buying Forza Switches and nothing else, please buy more Forza Switches. We need a season 2 of Forza. Forza 4, we'll call it. We'll bring the gang back and we'll go back to space. I'm going to go out now. Bye.
Jesus, man.